Justice with Judge Mablean will be life, because in everything we do, it involves the law. Where's your witness?
In the evidence.
That's hearsay.
It's notarized.
I still say it's hearsay.
She's fair.
You got to help these young men learn how to do this the right way.
Yes, Your Honor.
She's firm.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
No, I don't need to say anything else.
She's honest.
I'm not your child and I'm not your friend. That's the order of the court. Goodbye.
This is Justice with Judge Mablean.
All rise. Both parties raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Court is now in session with the Honorable Judge Mablean presiding.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You may be seated. In the matter of Lee Sweet, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Lee
Yes, Your
Sweet
Honor.
versus Sherry Kay. You are suing her for $2,500 based on, you want her to reimburse you $2,500 based upon negligent care of your mother.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And the defense is, well, I was adjusting to my new position. Right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Never heard of that defense before, but we'll see. All right, Mr. Sweet, tell me what happened.
Well, my mother is suffering through dementia, and that the prior caregiver that did an impeccable job, she had to leave because of family emergency. So I was scrambling to find a replacement for the caregiver, and I was looking through online forum, and the online forum recommended Miss Sherry Kay, the defendant. And many people recommended her to be good at her job, so I immediately contacted her, did an interview, and I went ahead and hired her so that she could take care of my mother and I could focus my energy on work.
How long has your mother been dealing with dementia?
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
How long has she had dementia?
She has been suffering dementia for the last 6 months.
Okay, so is she at the beginning or what did the doctor diagnose it as? Beginning stages? Are there some days she's lucid, some days she's out of it, or?
I would have to say that some days she's okay with it and she could function,
Okay.
and she recognizes who I am, but there are days when she's totally just forgets that I'm even there.
Okay,
So it's kind of in and out, so to speak.
okay, I'm with you.
Okay. And that but the problem is, the way she cared my mother made it so difficult, and for the lack of better words, she neglected a lot of the responsibilities, and I had no choice but to let her go. And that
Describe the neglect. Tell me, how did she neglect her? What did
Yes,
she
Your Honor.
not do?
Okay. When I hired the first week, I usually make meals twice a day because my mother only eats twice a day. So I prepped the food, put it in the fridge, then I explained to Miss Kay that she needs to be fed so that she'd be well nourished.
Right.
However, when I came home one day, I noticed that one of the food was in the fridge unopened. So I confronted her and I said, Miss Kay, why did you not feed my mother? And this happened at least twice. And she explained to me that because she was my mother was acting a certain way, that she couldn't feed her. And I thought to myself, that's a little bit of odd to say that.
So let me hear from you now, Miss Kay.
I do my best to provide for any of the clients I take care of, any of them. I have always been a caregiver ever since I was a child. My mother, my grandmother, I'm sorry, Your Honor, this is my first time in court and I am nervous.
All right. Don't be nervous.
My family has always had some medical issues, so I've always helped and I've always been there for my family. So I wanted to be a caretaker because that is something I'm passionate about. And I saw this opportunity, thank you, to freelance. That's why he found me on the forum, and I saw his post about taking care of his mother and what he needed for her her well-being, and that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so I did that.
So what's his complaint about the fact that he found out when I don't know how many times, but several times, that you had not fed her the food that he had left prepared?
Well, sometimes she would get very aggravated with me and hit me and throw the food at me. So I figured, all right, let's take a different approach. Let her calm down. But by that time, the time was up. Unfortunately, sometimes I did not feed her because she was so aggressive with me.
How can you make that false allegation?
Sir, it's not a false allegation. How do you know it's a false allegation? Do you have some cameras in the house? Do you have cameras in the house that show you your mother's behavior all day long? Answer that question, yes or no.
No.
Coming up on Justice with Judge Mablean.
It happens. That's the nature of the disease. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
I took care of my mother with that disease.
Justice with Judge Mablean. We're back with the case of Lee Sweet, who is suing Sherry Kay for negligence.
That behavior is very typical of demented patients. And the aggression grows greater as the dementia gets worse. And there are times that that's the behavior. The nicest person in the world will throw food, will not eat it. Don't want it. It happens. That's the nature of the disease. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
I took care of my mother with that disease. And I saw it progress from age 89 to age 98 when she died. Sweetest person in the world, never yelled at anybody. My mother literally picked up a knife and ran the caregiver out the house and threatened to kill her if she didn't get out of her house that I had hired her. Okay, anything else that you have to complain about the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor. My mother takes pills, which is iron pills, and she needs that as prescribed by the doctor. And when I came home and I asked her, did you provide the pills to her? And she said yes. But I say about a week later, I took her to a doctor to get the exam, and I was stunned when the doctor told me that she has low-level iron deficiency.
And how long had the defendant been with you during that time?
I would say this was about the second month.
Second month, okay.
Yes, Your Honor. And I asked her about that, and she says she'll correct the situation. As she says,
Your Honor, I watched his mother take the pills.
I read what you have to say, and I'm going to allow you time to say it, but let him finish what he's saying.
Thank you, Your Honor. Third time, I came home at my usual time, about 5 o'clock, and I noticed that Miss Kay and my mother were sitting on a couch watching TV. And I also noticed like some weird smell coming out of the living room. So I checked, and I noticed that my mother hasn't had her diapers changed for at least quite a while. And that's when I thought, this is it. I thought to myself, I gotta hire someone else, because there's no way I could let her keep going on like this. So the straw that broke the camel's back is when I got a phone call from my neighbor saying that my mother is outside wandering around in front of my street. Now this is preposterous. How could you let my mother, who's suffering from Alzheimer's, roam around the street? She could be hit by a car, or she could be mugged by someone, for all I know.
So did you come home?
Yes, I came home at usual time at 5 o'clock, but I got a phone call from my neighbor around 4:30. So that's when I said, that's it. I just got to fire her, and immediately fire her, because she's been neglecting my mother, and I'm just really up to here.
Did you say you hired her from the internet?
Yes, I found her name on a forum.
So that's where you got the recommendation from, and then you said there were some other people that you talked to that had used her services before?
That's correct.
Yes.
All right. Did you have any conversation with her about did you show her what your mother needed and how to do it and what the care involved before you hired her?
Yes, Your Honor. I explicitly wrote out the information of what kind of care my mother needs, and I wrote that on a form.
All right, let me see that.
Let me see. I have
And
that.
I think I read where it says you stayed at home for a week and worked with her to show her.
Well, she's supposed to work for me for five days a week.
No, I'm saying you stayed at home when you first hired the defendant.
Yes.
Your Honor, it was a day.
Oh, just one day.
It was one day.
So now this money that you're asking for, what is it? What's the source of that? What is it? How did you get to that figure?
Well, I prepay her monthly, and she was working for me for 2 months, and I prepaid her for the 3rd month, except I fired her after that first week of the 3rd month. So I'm asking for that 3 weeks that she didn't work to be reimbursed. And maybe some prescription for the iron pills, if it is possible, because it did cost me quite a lot of money to acquire that. Because it's a non-generic type of drugs, that it costs more than, say, a generic. So I have to fork out more money.
Why did you do the non-generic as opposed to the generic?
Because non-generic is the only one that's available. They don't have the generic option, unfortunately.
They didn't have the generic option for these iron pills.
Right.
Okay. All right. Sorry to hear that about your mom. How's she doing now?
Unfortunately, her health has been deteriorating somewhat, and she's somewhat more paranoid. And she just goes into lucid phase and regular phase.
So you have a caregiver now?
Yes, I do.
All right. Hope she gets better. She got started pretty early at 79. That's pretty early.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Coming up.
But what about the diaper not being changed?
The diaper not being changed. Your Honor, this was my first time dealing with a demented patient.
Justice with Judge Mablean. We're back with the case of Lee Sweet, who is suing Sherry Kay for negligence.
All right, go on.
And in his forum that he posted, it even states here, assist in redirecting agitated or aggressive behavior.
That's right. I read that. And that's just what it means. Redirect the behavior. Do you have any experience in caring for patients with dementia? Because it requires a certain skill.
I do not, Your Honor. This is my very first time. So when he only offered me 1 day of getting to know his mother, it was hard to carry on with the job. Yep. Because I only had 1 day of training.
Well, I think part of that is a job for a demented patient you perhaps should not have taken, because you need some training and experience in that. You need to know how to redirect that behavior. You need to know how to, cut that aggression down, because that's what you're going to have to deal with. And may I say that you weren't aware, because you didn't even realize the behavior changes, and you're denying that she would throw things and not eat her food. And you didn't know how to interview someone and what type of person was needed to care for your mother. Everybody can't care for people with dementia. But there's a certain level of patience and the certain skills you have to exercise in dealing with those patients. But what about the diaper not being changed?
The diaper not being changed. Your Honor, this was my first time dealing with a demented patient and changing their diaper. So just like the food, it'd be the same scenario with the diaper, and it'd be hard to change somebody when they're aggravated.
Coming up.
You need to go take some more classes.
Yes, I do.
You need to get some more experience.
I do.
But one has to be able to say, when offered a job, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
You can't be afraid to say that.
Closed captioning provided by. We're back with the case of Lee Sweet, who is suing Sherry Kay for negligence.
So what's going to be your solution for allowing for someone whose diaper has to be changed? How are you going to deal with that? They can't sit in the urine. They can't sit in the feces. That creates other problems.
Sometimes I turn on the TV just to see if she would calm down just a bit. And then,
Did that work?
Sometimes it would. It actually would. And we would just sit down and watch TV for a bit. Just...
So you only saw or experienced that 1 or 2 times where she was in a soiled diaper?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Huh? Sometimes you just can't get them to do it, but that's why you have to get the proper help. It's not just any and everybody. Then you look at her size. You're a tiny little thing.
I am.
But sometimes, trust me, I've seen other nurses your size, but they knew just how to handle the patients because it's training and skills. And when you get that training and knowledge, it's not necessarily size. I've seen bigger men that didn't know how to handle it. I think in this situation, you can't call it negligence, but of course you had to let her go because you also needed someone else to care for your mom.
That's right.
But sometimes it takes a while before you find the right person.
That's correct.
I believe we went through 4 or 5 nurses before we were able to say, okay, now I can go to work and leave this person at home with my mother.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I took the opportunity because it was an opportunity for me to grow, and I appreciate.
You got to grow in terms of, first of all, learning.
Yes.
You need to go take some more classes, probably.
Yes, I do.
You need to get some more experience.
I do.
But one has to be able to say, when offered a job, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
You can't be afraid to say that.
Judge Mablean's verdict when Justice with Judge Mablean returns. Promotional consideration provided by.
So the other thing is, she's an employee. You can't ask employees to refund money. You terminate. And once you terminate an employee, they're terminated. You can't ask them to refund money. That's not the way it goes.
Right, but I already prepaid her for the 3 weeks. She hasn't worked. That's the only thing I'm asking for.
Is the 2 weeks that she didn't work?
3 weeks that she didn't work. She only worked the first week of that 3rd month.
Where's her severance pay? Where's her notice of termination? What does she get when you just walk in and terminate her?
Well, in California,
She got to have time to look for a job.
I had
Right,
no
but
notice.
You can terminate at will, but you still have to be reasonable. So I'm not going to order her to pay you back because you consider that as severance pay. All right? Severance pay. You paid it in advance. You can't do it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You'll be all right. Why are you shaking your head? Don't pay employees in advance.
Yeah, I realize that.
Right. You're not supposed to do that. You don't advance pay. You don't loan to employees. All right?
Thank
Judgment
you.
for the defendant.
All rise.
Judge Mablean has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
I do want to say thank you for the opportunity, and I do need more training, and I should have admitted to myself that I couldn't do the job.
Well, I felt that judgment was, to me personally, unfair, but I could empathize with what the judge has gone through,